Hello everyone! We are back. And in today's video, I want to talk about this book. Now this book was written by Aisha, who is the creator of the very popular YouTube channel Bilingual Baby. And in this book, she writes about the Levine method. Now, I grew up in the US and I went through the American education system. And I'm also trying to raise bilingual children here in Japan. And so this mirrors the experiences that Aisha is going through. And so many of the things that she writes in this book really connect with me personally. There are so many moments when I'm just reading this and nodding my head, agreeing and saying yes.
私はあまり育児本を読みません。なぜかというと、育児本に書いてあることは結構なんか理想的なことが多くて、あまり参考にならないなって思うことが多かったので、本自体をあまり読みません。で、基本的に育児本をたくさん読んで取り入れようかなって思ってるのは純の役目で、それをいろいろ教えてくれて、実際今子育てに生かしてるっていう感じなんですけど、でもこの本は結構私たちの境遇に似てるところがあるので、なので読んでいて結構しっくりくるというか、こういうことができたらいいなっていう、理想的なことも書かれているけど、でもなんか手に届かないことじゃないというか、実現できそうな項目がいくつか書いてあるので、読んでいてやりやすいなというか、実践しやすいなっていうことがたくさん書いてありました。
So in this video, I want to talk about how this book has changed the way we interact with our children. But before we do, I also want to talk about the points where what we're trying to do here at Bilingual matches very similarly with the Levine method. First of all, in this book, she talks about the importance of parents having goals and sharing those goals with the children and as a family moving towards the same goal. Now, here on our channel, you might have seen the video where we're having a family meeting. And this is something that we've been doing ever since Mina was a baby. And during those family meetings, we do exactly that. Everyone shares their goals, we reflect back on those goals, and we try to move forward and take on new challenges together as a family. And so we thought this was very complementary to the Levine method. Secondly, throughout the book, Aisha always stresses the importance of talking to children, not as children, but as individuals, as human beings. And that's something that we've been trying to do with Mina especially, but also with Teito. So in our videos, you can see us tackling difficult subjects like gender issues. And by doing that, we hope that both of our children and 3B will grow up to have a broader perspective, not just with life in Japan, but understanding that the world is a huge place. Everyone has different values, but it starts with us sharing that information with the kids. Also, Aisha talks about the importance of parents understanding and respecting their own uniqueness. And this is something that I've been trying to do, especially with Mina, when I go through and talk about my youth, how I was born in Japan and I grew up abroad. And through these experiences, I hope that Mina can see that I too went through struggles. It wasn't always easy, but that was the road that brought me to who I am today. So both me and Yuka will continue to share and talk about what makes us unique. So after reading this book, we started to change the way we think about child raising, and we started to apply new strategies in our household. So first of all, we have watching the news. And this is something that we hadn't been doing. In the morning, what did we used to watch on TV?
Zip.
Right, and those kinds of TV programs are entertaining and they share information about the weather and just kind of light news. But we started to realize after reading this book that there weren't a lot of information about things outside of Japan. And in order to give our kids a more broad perspective, we thought we needed to change the quality of the news. And so we started to look around and we found the perfect resource.
BBC News?
That's right. Yuka has Hulu. And so on Hulu, if you search BBC or news in English, you have lots of different news sites that you can play. And you can listen to it in English or in Japanese. And so we started to play this in the morning. And while we're watching it, we can talk about the news with each other. And if Mina's interested, we can start to talk to her about it. And on the very first day that we started doing this, in just about 30 minutes, we were already talking about topics that we had never discussed before. For example, the Uyghurs, or about environmental issues like sharks being caught in nets, or technological issues like AI. And all of this was playing on the TV, and so it gave us a springboard to start discussing these things. So this has been a really positive thing for our family. In addition, we have weekly subscriptions to Yomiuri Kodomo Shimbun. And even though this is in Japanese, it really gives us some good starting off points to start discussing things that are going on in this world. For example, here we can talk about Japanese people who are having an effect on the global stage, or graffiti. Tato loves trains, so we can talk about the history of the Japanese train system. So having these things lying around really helps springboard into new and interesting topics. Next, this book helped us change the way we praise our children. Now, in our household, we always make an effort to praise our kids. We want them to feel good about themselves and have a positive environment. But this book stresses the importance of praising the process and the effort that goes into it instead of focusing on the results. And so we started to do this. Now, Mina, I think, is a very clever girl. She's very smart for her age. So I have a tendency just to jump to the result and say, oh, you're so smart. You're so clever. But instead of doing that, I now start to focus on the steps that it took for her to get there. So for example, wow, you worked really hard to do this. Or wow, I'm so amazed at all of the colors that you chose on this artwork. And so by being specific and focusing on the effort, this really helps fuel Mina and Tato's motivation towards trying harder and doing better the next time. Now, Yuka learned a new word from reading this book. What is it?
Empathy.
Empathy. Now, this is a word that I've grown up with, and in Japanese, it's similar to kyokan or omoiyari, but it's a tad different. And so in this book, Aisha stresses the importance of acknowledging different values in different people, and then to start to recognize the suffering of others. And most importantly, once you notice that someone is suffering, to have the power and the strength to jump in and to help. From my experience with Mina, I feel like she has more empathy than the average child her age. You might have seen in our other video how we talked about the importance of saying no and to stand up to her friends when it's necessary. But moving forward, as the kids move into elementary school, I think empathy is going to be even more important.
ミーナもテイトも今このお家でバイリンガルの育児をしていて、外に行ったらなんで英語をしゃべるのとか、もっと大きくなってきたらなんでそんな発音してるのとか、あとはなんで英語のことばっかり話すのとか、英語しゃべれるって調子に乗らないでっていうことは少なからずどこかで耳にすることがあるかなって思うけど、でその時にちょっといじめまではいかなくってもちょっと嫌な気持ちになるなとか、悲しいなとか、なんでそんなこと言うのって思った気持ちを、例えばじゃあ自分が逆の立場だってお友達が何か気にしてることとか、なんか人と違って嫌だなって思ってることに対して相手の気持ちになることができれば、もっと思いやりを持って接しられるようになるとか、周りの人ともっとうまくコミュニケーションを回すことができるかなって思うけど、いじめられることとか相手から何か言われることっていうのはいいことじゃないけど、それを経験してほしいとも思わないけど、でもそれがもしかしたら今後自分が生きていく上で何かプラスに働いていくかもしれないよね。いいように見れば。だからその時はちょっと悲しい気持ちになったり嫌な気持ちになるかもしれないけど、今後自分が成長していく上であの時はああだったっていう風になんか思い返して人の立場に立てる子になったらいいなって思うけど。
And it's going to make them a better person, a stronger person, and hopefully a more globally minded person. Now, this next one I am guilty of, and I am still trying to work on this, and that is not looking at my phone during meals or during family time.
ダディはすごくミーナにも注意されるぐらい今ご飯中もどこでも少しでも時間があったら携帯を見てるから何回言ってもそうだし何回注意してももういつも手に取ってる。そうだよね。
That's right, and I realize it's a bad habit. And in this book, it writes, if I keep looking at the phone, I might be neglecting or ignoring what the children are saying. And if that persists, they're going to start to think that what they're saying is not important. And then they will simply stop sharing their opinions or their thoughts. And I never want that to happen. And so now, when I'm in the presence of kids, I'm always making an effort not to look at my phone. Unless it's an emergency. And finally, how to talk to our kids. In the morning time, we're always very stressed. We're short on time. And so tensions could rise. And we might demand things of the kids without really going through and explaining why we're saying that. Very recently, we had an example of that. It's starting to get really hot, and so we finally started to turn on the air conditioner. Oh, it feels so good, right? But if these doors are open, what's going to happen to the cool air? It's going to escape. However, we never took the time to explain that to our kids. For them, going from winter to spring and now into summer, nothing much has changed. They don't really understand the concept of cool air. And so when we suddenly start to yell at the kids and say, hey, close the door, they're like, where did that come from? And so just as that was happening, I was reading this book and I realized, no, wait a minute, I need to take the time to explain why it's important to keep the door closed. And so throughout the day, we're not perfect parents. There's still times when we have to shout a little bit or we have to be very demanding, but we always rewind and try to say, how can I communicate this in a better way? So we will continue to apply the Levine method in our household. For anyone who is interested in, of course, bilingual education, but also raising your children to become globally minded people, we definitely recommend this book. I will leave the link for this book in the description. So please, if you're interested, go ahead and check it out. And if you need more examples of how to communicate with your children, please check out the Bilingual Baby YouTube channel. There are thousands of hours of very good examples, and hopefully we can provide some good examples here on our channel as well. We hope you were able to learn a lot, and if you have any questions or comments, please be sure to leave them in the comment below. Thank you very much for watching, everyone. We'll see you next time. Bye!